Imagine standing out on the edge of this really rocky ocean coastline, right?
Okay, setting the scene.
Yeah. And you literally toss your only set of oars into the crashing surf, and you just let the brutal, freezing current pull your tiny, fragile little boat out to sea.
Oh, wow. That sounds terrifying.
Right. Like, historically, doing something like that was considered this absolute spiritual masterclass.
Seriously.
Yeah. But today, I mean, we would just call that a Coast Guard rescue mission waiting to happen.
For sure. I mean, it sounds completely unhinged to the modern mind.
Exactly.
Because we are so conditioned to steer, to optimize, to control every single variable of our lives.
And that obsession with control is just, it's exhausting. I know you listening right now have felt this.
Oh, absolutely.
It's incredibly easy to wake up one morning, look at your calendar, look at your endless cascading to-do list, and feel this sudden, overwhelming urge to just walk out the front door.
And just keep walking until you don't recognize the street names anymore.
Yes. You're trying to learn, you're trying to grow, but honestly, sometimes you just feel completely buried by the sheer volume of, well, information and obligations.
That's a lot.
You want a life that feels meaningful, but instead you're just chronically tired.
It is a profoundly universal feeling. I mean, it's that distinct sense of being trapped on a high-speed treadmill that you don't even remember stepping onto in the first place.
Which perfectly brings us to the core of our deep dive today. We are pulling from a really fascinating, deeply reflective piece of writing by an author named Mark Condy.
Yeah, it's a great piece.
It's a blog post titled About Mark and His Pilgrimage Dream Moments of the Sacred.
Mark offers a very grounding perspective here. Just for some context, he's originally from Scotland, but he currently lives in Ohio with his wife and 2 teenage sons.
Right.
And he works at a seminary library and dedicates a huge portion of his time to exploring Celtic Christian spirituality.
Now, I know Celtic Christian spirituality might sound like an incredibly, niche academic subject.
It does sound a bit academic.
But the way Mark writes about it is remarkably grounded in the mud and dirt of real life. He doesn't position himself as a guru sitting on a mountaintop with all the answers.
Right, he actually describes himself as a weary traveler on a quest.
I love that. And our mission today is to take Mark's exploration of these ancient frameworks and figure out how they actually apply to a modern, chaotic life.
To make it practical for the listener.
Exactly. We want to look at how to take that feeling of aimless, exhausting burnout and transform it into a purposeful journey. Okay, let's unpack this.
We really need to start right where you opened, with that visceral urge to escape. Mark identifies this as a deep desire to flee from the sheer monotony of everyday life.
The boredom.
The boredom, the disillusionment, the moments where your career, your relationships, or your personal growth just completely stall out.
He argues that this isn't just like standard burnout that you can fix with a weekend nap.
No, not at all.
He theorizes that when we feel that desperate, clawing need to run away from our problems, it is actually a symptom of a massive structural misalignment.
Yeah, he believes we feel this way because our lives have fallen out of sync with what he calls a divine blueprint.
A divine blueprint, so there's a plan.
Right. And Mark refers to the creator of this master plan as the monarch of the universe, or the architect of life.
Okay, the architect.
From his perspective, when we are disconnected from the custom-designed purpose this architect has drafted for us, life inevitably degrades into a tedious, colorless grind.
So the wandering feels pointless because we've lost sight of the blueprint. We're just walking in circles.
Precisely.
Okay, I have to jump in here with some pushback.
Sure, go for it.
Let's use an analogy. Imagine you have this incredibly massive, complicated piece of furniture to build. You've got 100 different screws, wooden pegs, heavy panels scattered all over your living room floor.
Total nightmare.
Right. If you suddenly realize the manufacturer forgot to include the instruction manual, of course you're going to want to quit. You'd be furious.
Yeah, truly.
So if there really is an architect and there really is a blueprint, why hide it? Why doesn't the architect just hand us the IKEA manual for our lives on day one? Why all this painful, confusing wandering in the dark?
Well, that is the ultimate question, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is how Mark entirely reframes the concept of wandering.
Reframes it how?
In his view, the wandering isn't a mistake. It isn't a shipping error where you didn't get the manual. The wandering is actually the necessary mechanism for discovery.
Wait, the wandering is the point.
Yeah. He points out that without an aim, a destination cannot be accomplished. The deep confusion and frustration we feel is a designed feature. It's supposed to trigger a search.
So the discomfort is the catalyst. I mean, if we were totally comfortable staring at the pile of wood, we'd never try to build the chair.
Yes, exactly. And to describe this specific type of searching, he borrows a really brilliant concept from a screenwriter for The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, nice.
The phrase isn't wanderlust, which implies a restless desire to just travel for the sake of consuming new experiences. Instead, he calls it wander hope.
Wander hope. I really love that distinction.
It's beautiful, right? It's a holy longing. It operates like an internal compass needle that won't stop spinning.
Always pulling you somewhere.
Right. It is this persistent pull that pushes us to seek out our specific sacred role in the world. Mark argues that we are all fundamentally pilgrims on a journey.
So that feeling of wanting to escape your life isn't actually a desire to run away from your responsibilities.
No, it's a profound desire to run toward that divine purpose. You are looking for a spiritual treasure that adds actual weight-bearing meaning to your everyday existence.
That completely flips the script on how we view our own dissatisfaction. You aren't lost and you aren't failing, you're just in the active phase of seeking.
Exactly.
But hold on, this brings us to a massive logistical problem. Wander Hope is a great engine, but an engine without a steering wheel is terrifying.
It can be, yeah.
If I am supposed to be seeking this purpose, how do I actually navigate? Like if I don't have the blueprint yet, how do I steer the ship?
To answer that, we have to lean into the Celtic spirituality Mark studies. And it's important to understand why Celtic spirituality is so uniquely suited for this.
Okay, why is it?
Unlike modern, hyper-structured self-help programs that give you, 10 neat steps to success,
Yeah.
ancient Celtic traditions were deeply tied to the unpredictability of nature.
Right. They lived in a tough environment.
Exactly. They lived on rugged coasts with harsh weather. They understood that you cannot tame the ocean or the wind, so their spiritual practices reflected that wildness.
Makes sense.
And to navigate their own wander hope, the ancient saints of Celtic spirituality used a very specific and highly unconventional method of travel.
What did they use?
They used something called a coracle.
A coracle. Break that down for us. What is that?
Mark describes the coracle as a flimsy ancient vessel. It's essentially a tiny woven basket boat covered in animal skins.
A basket boat.
Yes. And these old Celtic saints would literally set out to sea in these fragile, inherently unstable little crafts, entirely at the mercy of the violent ocean currents. They would push off from the shore with absolutely no predetermined destination.
No compass, no map.
Nothing. They were trusting in the Trinity, in God, and specifically in the chaotic but purposeful flow of the Holy Spirit to guide them.
That is wild.
They believed the natural currents of the ocean would take them exactly where the architect wanted them to land. And wherever they washed ashore, no matter how desolate, that is where they would unpack their lives and build a new community.
Okay, hold on. My modern control freak brain is sounding a massive alarm right now.
I don't blame you.
If I stop rowing in my life, I don't pay rent. If I just drift in my career, I get fired and my family suffers.
Right. The real-world consequences.
Exactly. Out in the real world, throwing your oars into the ocean doesn't sound spiritual. It sounds incredibly reckless and financially irresponsible. How does Mark square this ancient survival tactic with a modern Tuesday?
That reaction is exactly how a modern mind interprets the idea of surrender. We immediately equate it with passivity, laziness, or danger.
Yeah, giving up.
But Mark isn't advocating for quitting your job and staring at the wall. The coracle is a metaphor for finding what he calls the path of least resistance.
Oh.
But we need to look at the mechanism of what that actually means. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means functioning within your natural giftings and strengths, rather than constantly fighting against your own nature.
Ah, I see. So it's about finding alignment with the current, not just giving up completely.
Exactly. Let's apply it to a high-stress career context. Getting in the coracle doesn't mean you stop showing up to meetings.
Please keep going to your meetings.
Right. It means you change how you emotionally attach to the outcomes you can't control. It means recognizing when you are forcing a project or a relationship or a career path that is fundamentally at odds with who you were created to be.
So pushing against the current.
Yes. When you strive constantly against the current, you exhaust yourself and eventually capsize. Getting in the coracle means cooperating with a master plan.
You're still in the boat, though.
You still have to exist in the boat. You still have to brave the weather, bail out the water, manage the daily tasks, but you surrender the overarching destination to something greater than your own micromanagement.
That makes a lot more sense. Going back to our furniture analogy, it's like accepting that you are meant to build a chair and stopping the exhausting, frustrating attempt to force those pieces into becoming a dining table.
You are working with the materials you actually have.
Right. That is a perfect way to look at it.
And what makes Mark's writing so compelling is that he doesn't leave this as some lofty, abstract theological concept. He offers a very physical, gritty application for the listener to try right now.
Oh, really? Like what?
He suggests building a literal miniature coracle.
Like a little craft you can hold in your hand.
Yes, just a small boat made of whatever materials you have lying around, twigs, leaves, paper. And he says you should take this tiny boat to a stream, a river, or a lake and let it float away.
Okay, I like the imagery there.
But the mechanism of this act is crucial. You use this tiny boat to carry your prayers, your hopes, and your dormant dreams.
Wow.
Or, perhaps more importantly, you consciously let it carry away the heavy sorrows, the past failures, and the emotional baggage that are currently preventing you from stepping into your next season of life.
There is something so powerful about a physical act of release. By watching that tiny boat be taken by the literal current of a river, you are forcing your brain to acknowledge that you cannot control every variable.
Yes.
It's a tactile way of choosing to trust the journey.
It bridges the gap between thinking about surrender and actually feeling it in your body.
Okay, floating a tiny boat is a deeply poetic first step. But Mark's ultimate goal for us goes beyond a symbolic afternoon at the creek. He actually wants us to go on a pilgrimage.
A real pilgrimage.
But let's be real. When you or I hear the word pilgrimage, we immediately think of booking a wildly expensive plane ticket to walk the Camino de Santiago in Spain, or traveling across the globe to Jerusalem.
It sounds like a luxury vacation.
Right. And for a lot of people listening right now, juggling mortgages, demanding jobs, tight budgets, that is literally impossible.
Mark is acutely aware of that financial and logistical barrier. This is why he insists that a pilgrimage does not require a passport, a plane ticket, or thousands of dollars.
It doesn't.
No, he argues that the journey can be entirely local.
So how does a walk down the street become a pilgrimage?
Because the physical distance traveled isn't the mechanism that makes it a pilgrimage. It's the posture of the traveler. It is the intention behind the movement.
The intention, okay.
Mark suggests visiting local sacred sites, an old local church, or even finding a quiet patch of woods. You visit this local space with the explicit expectation of seeking guidance, asking for forgiveness, or simply seeking an encounter with the divine.
So it's about what you bring to the place, not how far the place is.
Exactly. It makes the profound attainable. To anchor this, Mark includes a brilliant quote from a writer named Lacey Clark Ellman.
What does she say?
She says, "To live as a pilgrim, all you need to do is see your life as a journey and your role as a seeker of the sacred."
A seeker of the sacred. Wow, that single phrase changes the entire lens of reality. Suddenly, a chaotic commute or a stressful walk through a city park isn't just a hurdle to get through. It's a landscape where something meaningful might happen.
Mark also connects this localized seeking to the biblical story of the prodigal son.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, if you know the story, a son demands his inheritance, leaves home, wastes all his money, and finds himself entirely lost, destitute, and feeding pigs.
Hitting rock bottom.
Right. But the ultimate pilgrimage in that story isn't the son wandering the globe. The actual pilgrimage is his humbling internal realization and his physical walk back home.
Ah, I see.
It's the journey back to God the Father, where he is embraced, fully accepted, and lavishly provided for. Mark is highlighting that the truest pilgrimage is almost always a return to our spiritual center, rather than an expedition to a foreign country.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This idea of returning to our center brings up something Mark cites that I find deeply compelling.
What's that?
He references an ancient verse, Jeremiah 6.16. The text urges people to stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths, ask where the good way is, and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls.
Such a powerful visual.
Think about how that applies to our modern reality. We live in a society obsessed with the new. We want the latest life hack, the newest app, the 60-second TikTok video that will instantly fix our morning routine.
We are addicted to the shortcut. We want the wisdom without the walk.
But Mark is saying that true pilgrimage requires making the conscious, difficult choice to stand at the crossroads and completely decelerate. It's choosing to look backward to find the ancient paths.
The slow paths.
Yeah. It's about unearthing the slow, time-tested wisdom from the past that we've discarded in our manic rush to the future.
Deceleration is deeply countercultural. It feels wrong to slow down when everyone else is sprinting.
It does. But taking a slow, localized pilgrimage to seek ancient paths, I mean, on the surface, that sounds incredibly peaceful. It sounds like a spa weekend for the soul.
Right. But it's not.
Exactly. Mark issues a pretty stark warning here, doesn't he? He says this process of change and restoration is actually incredibly messy and highly emotional.
It is absolutely not a spa retreat. Think about the mechanics of it. Whenever you strip away the frantic distractions of modern society, the scrolling, the constant noise, the endless busyness, you are suddenly left sitting in a quiet room, face to face with yourself.
And that can be terrifying.
Right. For most of us, that is a deeply uncomfortable encounter. Because this inward journey is inherently difficult and emotionally taxing, Mark emphasizes a crucial rule. You cannot do it alone.
Okay, so you need help.
Yes. This is where he introduces another vital Celtic concept, the anam cara,
The soul friend.
a soul companion or spiritual guide. Mark is actually in the process of writing a book where his main character named Tobar is embarking on a pilgrimage.
What?
And Tobar does not travel alone. He travels with an anam cara. Mark stresses that while you can technically attempt a pilgrimage by yourself, the steps will be much heavier, the blind spots will be wider, and the experience will be far less rich.
I want to dig into the how of this. We all have friends, right? We have colleagues, we have people we grab coffee with, we have hundreds of connections on social media.
Yeah.
Why is this specific type of soul companion so critical? How is an anam cara different from a buddy you vent to after work?
Because a casual friend might listen to you complain and say, hey, let's go grab a drink and forget about it.
Right, the distraction method.
Exactly. And anam cara says, why is this bothering you so much? What is this exposing in you?
Oof, that's a very different conversation.
It is. And we need that level of depth because eventually the weather on your pilgrimage is going to turn. We need what Mark calls a touchstone person because every single pilgrim inevitably hits the desert times.
The desert times. Apply that for the listener. What does a desert time look like in a modern context?
For you listening, a desert time isn't a literal stretch of sand. It's that brutal 6-month period where your career completely stalls out.
Right.
It's when your kids won't talk to you. It's a season where your spiritual life feels entirely dead, where God feels incredibly distant, and where waking up and doing your morning routine feels like chewing glass.
Just totally dry and exhausting.
During these dry, desolate seasons, our immediate human instinct is to run away again. We want to suppress the feelings, deny the struggle, or numb ourselves to escape the silence.
We end up right back at that urge to walk out the front door that we talked about at the very beginning. The cycle just repeats itself.
But the anam cara is the person who stands in the doorway and stops you from running. They come alongside you in the dirt.
They don't just watch.
No, to borrow your analogy, they don't just watch you scream at the pile of IKEA furniture. They get down on the floor with you, help you sort the screws, and remind you that you're building something worthwhile. They help you reflect on what those desert seasons are actually meant to teach you. By voicing your struggles to an anam cara, you realize you aren't crazy, you aren't alone, and that the seed of your divine purpose is actually germinating in that dark, dry soil.
They act as the anchor when your coracle gets caught in a storm. They hold the blueprint for you when your vision gets blurry.
Beautifully said.
And creating that kind of mutual anchoring is really Mark's ultimate goal with his writing. He lays out very specific, tangible hopes for his readers and his fellow pilgrims.
Few dozen.
He wants people to trust God more deeply. He wants them to see God more clearly. He hopes they learn to love people more dearly and, crucially, to believe in God and believe in themselves more.
He is aiming for holistic transformation. It's not just about internal peace. It has to translate into external action.
He actually ties this external action together with a reimagined acronym. He wants people to practice his version of LAW.
Oh, right.
And it's not the rigid, punitive, rule-based law we normally think of. His LAW stands for loving, accepting, and welcoming.
I love that refrain.
He argues that radical hospitality is the hallmark of a true pilgrim who has actually survived the desert.
It makes perfect sense psychologically. When you have been deeply embraced and accepted yourself, much like the prodigal son returning home, your natural, unforced response is to become loving, accepting, and welcoming to other battered travelers you meet on the path.
Because you've been there.
Exactly. You recognize their wander hope because you felt it yourself.
So what does this all mean for the person listening right now? We've covered a lot of ground today.
Or we really have.
We've talked about the divine blueprint, throwing our oars into the coracle, seeking the ancient paths, and finding an anam cara to survive the desert.
It's a lot to process.
But if we distill all this ancient wisdom into a modern reality, the overarching narrative is that you are not just killing time on a spinning rock. You aren't just here to endure the monotony of a daily commute, clear out an endless inbox, and pay bills until you die. You are a pilgrim.
And if you are a pilgrim, you require a concrete travel plan.
Okay, what's the plan?
Mark insists that any meaningful journey needs 4 highly practical elements to get off the ground. First, you need a destination. Where exactly are you going?
Right.
Second, you need an intention. What are you doing when you get there? Are you going there to seek career guidance, to drop a heavy emotional burden, or to forgive a family member in your heart?
So it's not just wandering aimlessly.
No, you have a purpose. Third, you need a date. When are you going? If it isn't on the calendar, it is just a wish.
This is so true.
And finally, you need a tribe. Who is going with you? Who is your anam cara that will hold you accountable for this specific leg of the journey?
Destination, intention, date, tribe. I really love that framework.
It's very actionable.
Let's say your intention is forgiving someone who hurt you. Picking a specific date and a specific physical destination forces you to stop vaguely hoping you'll feel better one day and actually schedule the emotional work.
It takes the mystical, floaty ideas of spirituality and grounds them.
It creates a bridge between having that internal wander hope and actually letting your feet hit the pavement for the first step.
Exactly.
Which brings us all the way back to the start of this deep dive. That feeling of being totally overwhelmed, of looking at your calendar and wanting to run out the front door to escape the noise.
We've all been there.
I want to leave you with a direct challenge today, inspired by Mark's vision, but dragging it right onto your front porch.
Okay, let's hear it.
Look at your own neighborhood right now. Where is a quiet space nearby? Maybe it's a weathered park bench you drive past every single morning without looking at.
Or an old brick church on the corner.
Yes. Or a quiet patch of woods tucked behind your subdivision. Where is a physical place you have walked past 100 times, but that could become your localized sacred destination this very weekend?
That's a great question to ask yourself.
Because maybe the escape you are so desperately craving isn't a one-way expensive ticket to another continent.
Probably not.
Maybe it's just a 10-minute walk down the street to a quiet bench where you can sit down, finally confront a dream you've allowed to lie dormant for years, and ask the architect of life to show you the very next line of your blueprint.
The profound is usually hiding in the familiar. It's just about finding the sacred right where you already stand.
The journey is out there waiting for you. You just have to decide to step into the coracle.